can't take this off. So. Okay, the summer after I graduated high school, my summer job was at the DMV in Wilmington, Delaware. I worked sort of behind the scenes in this tiny office with these 4 older women. The office was so small that my desk was a chair pulled up to a countertop. And I worked with these 4 women. First there was Karen, she was the supervisor, and Karen was about 400 pounds. And every day she would ask me to go get her something sweet. It was one of my main job responsibilities. She was never specific, always something sweet, so I would go get her a tasty cake every day. Then there was Cookie and Sharon. Cookie was really awesome. She was smooth, she smoked cool, she was like 5 feet tall and had this huge belly laugh. She was awesome. And then there was Sharon. Sharon was the journey-loving NASCAR fan who actually one time lost a tooth in the middle of the day at work. It really just came out while she was talking. So finally, there was Peggy. Peggy was the last one. And Peggy was scary. She had a rough life. She was mean. She would talk about beating her grandchildren when they misbehaved. She had an out-of-control gambling addiction. And I show up there, fresh out of my 12th year of Catholic school, and she wants nothing to do with me, and I am literally terrified of her. I can't even talk to her. So I start this job, and I guess like 3 or 4 weeks go by, and me and these women fell in love with each other. Really, we had all these like office traditions. We would make popcorn every day, and we had our own bowls, because if we shared a bowl, we would start to fight. We listened to the radio all day. We danced to Michael Jackson. They would grill me about whether or not I was a virgin. They really wanted to know, and I would never tell them because it was weird and because it was fun to not tell them. But I soon found that the coworker I was really getting closest to was Peggy. She started bringing me in these Motown CDs, and I would copy them, and she brought me in books, and we had this real turning point one day when Luther Vandross came on the radio. And my dad had died about 6 months before I started this job, and he'd come out with this really sappy song about dancing with his father. It's really sad. And one day it came on the radio, and she turned to me and she said, "Meghan, I think of you every time I hear this song." And she started to cry, I started to cry. This was serious. This was like, we were becoming really good friends. So I mentioned that she has a gambling addiction. One day she comes in and she tells me that there are these scratch-off cards out right now. And you can send in your losing cards and be entered for a chance to appear on a game show in Las Vegas. And she tells me that she's afraid to fly and she wants to give them to me. And she wants me to send them in and go on a game show. So I'm like, Peggy, yes, of course, bring them in. Thinking that she's going to bring in like 3 to 5. She shows up the next day with a box full of used, scratched lottery cards. Probably $100 to $200 worth of these things. And I'm like, oh shit. And I throw them in my car, and I don't know what to do. I was planning to send them in. But then the reality started to set in. I'm 17 years old. I'm going away to college. Am I going to just leave and go to Vegas and go on a game show? Am I even allowed? And then, like, the quantity of cards that she brought in made me feel like it was a really strong chance that I might win and be on this game show. So I threw them in my car, and I'm, like, mulling it over. But a couple days later, I come home, and the box of lottery cards is sitting on the kitchen table. And my mom had found them. And so she's thinking I have a serious problem. I go up to her and I'm like, "Mom, it's not what it looks like at all. Peggy's afraid of flying. She needs me to send him in and go on a game show." So my mom had 2 reactions. Who is Peggy? Are you fucking crazy? And she forbade me from sending them in naturally. I was 17 years old. But I guess because I was 17 years old, I already made up my mind. And I taped up that goddamn box, and I addressed it, and I sent it in. Because Peggy had spent a lot of money on these lottery cards, number 1. Number 2, she was like the most unlikely friend I had ever made in my life. And I would have never thought that what came out of that summer at the DMV would have happened. I did not get picked to be on the game show. I'm actually still friends with Peggy, though, to this day. Thanks.